Good morning, students. This is Dr. Faith Acker from Northern Virginia Community College. I'm making this recording today as a revision exercise that we would have done in class had we not had school canceled for inclement weather. I'm hopeful that you'll be able to use this particular revision technique to revise paragraphs that you already love, since one of the goals of this assignment is to change your rhetoric and your language as directly and abundantly as possible. This is a great way to get out of the rut of using a paragraph that you've already loved and struggling to change anything because you appreciate what you've said so much. Today I've picked a paragraph that I wrote for an annotated bibliography entry, which is also available on YouTube. You can take a look at it if you would like. I like this paragraph a lot. I think I have carefully summarized Leonard's argument. I've boiled it down to the most essential points, and I've expressed all of those using fairly sophisticated language, in my opinion, for the entire summary. So as I work through this summary, I want to pull out the essential ideas, and I particularly want to keep them in the same idea because it is a summary. I still want to start with a topic sentence and to close with a summary of Leonard's main points, but I also want to make sure that I don't leave out any important steps along the way. The first thing that I will do at the beginning of my paragraph is I will point out that Leonard is pro the implementation of soda taxes. That's the very first thing in my topic sentence. He is in support of this implementation for a lot of reasons, and one of them has to do that this implementation is getting pretty widespread already. That's my second idea. It's in many foreign countries and in many American cities. That's important to Leonard, so I want to keep that in my summary even when I rewrite it. He also compares soda taxes to tobacco taxes. He thinks they're both related to health, so I want to mention tobacco taxes in my revised summary as well. He refers directly to Mayor Mike Bloomberg, and I don't want to forget that name, so I'm going to include that particularly in my summary. And he quotes, he paraphrases, but it's a word that I'm going to quote from Leonard's article duty. So I've put that in quotation marks so that my reader will know that's a direct quotation from the article, and that's part of what Bloomberg says. At the end of his article, Leonard talks about 3 considerations that should be taken into account when raising taxes, and I think those are important in my summary. The first one is how high the taxes should be. The second one is what should be done with the things that are, with the money that is acquired through those taxes. And the third idea is that there should be some kind of fallback plan. I've called this a plan B. So I have my main ideas. They're in the same order so that I can keep my paragraph structure. But I want to make sure I don't keep my words. So the next thing I'm going to do is basically hide my original text. I'm going to turn it white in this instance, and I would always keep your original text and work with a new document to make sure that if you like your original version better, you can get back to it. And I'm going to start to write a sentence on each of the ideas that I've expressed in my original paragraph, but I don't want to look at the original paragraph. That's the most important part. I love the language of my original paragraph. I think I've said things really nicely, but this is a revision exercise, and it's about making my language different. When I get to the end, I may find that I like some of my new sentences better. I might say them with more assurance and with more confidence than I did the first time around. I might decide that I like the original phrasing instead, and I can go back to that and I can mix and match, but giving myself a second paragraph option will give me a lot more flexibility in how I present my ideas. So I would normally, I've pre-written this paragraph, so I'm cheating a little bit for the sake of time on the video and also so you don't have to listen to my keys clacking. I would normally probably pull the title and the author from the original version to make sure that they are correct, but in this case I've just started. I already know the author is David Leonard, that the title is The Case for the Health Taxes, and that this article appeared in the New York Times. So I have cited these all together in my first sentence, which addresses this idea of being pro-implementation. David Leonard supports the implementation of soda taxes in America. The second thing I want to do is go to my second idea. He likes this idea because they're widespread. And I remember, and you can use outside information that you've already known and remembered. I remember that he likes this because it's widespread. Many, many people in many, many places have successfully implemented soda taxes. So, arguing that many cities and countries have successfully implemented sugar and soda taxes in the past, he talks about tobacco. My next clause, Leonard compares soda taxes to tobacco taxes. Oh, and I remember why as I'm writing this paragraph, because both of them will make the public healthier. Looking at my list, I can see that the next thing Leonard has described is an interview with Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg, I remember, is the former mayor of New York City, so I'm going to include that information. And Leonard has a sense that public officials have a duty, remember that's the word that I quoted directly, to improve public health. So I'm putting that word in there as well. Finally, at the end of his paragraph, Leonard takes into account 3 considerations that the government officials should consider if they're trying to implement a new tax effectively. The first one, I'm going to put all these in one sentence together. Officials should consider how high the tax ought to be. They don't want it to be an undue burden on people. They just want it to be a deterrent so that people will proceed towards and seek out healthier items in this case. In the second place, there needs to be a plan for how those funds are going to be used. And in the third place, there needs to be a plan B in place in case the original one doesn't really work. And you'll notice I wrote plan B down here because I was using some different words from my original version, and I've now used the word plan in this sentence as well. I don't think it's in my original one. Finally, at the very end, I didn't give myself any tips on how to sum up because I was at the end of my list of, I was right in the middle, I had 9 words already. But really, my summary is just going to expand on my first sentence, my closing paragraph. It's going to sum up all the ideas of the paragraph. The first one talked about how David Leonard supported the implementation of soda taxes. I've also brought in a supplemental idea, these 3 important considerations. So my closing sentence is going to acknowledge this advanced planning, and then again reiterate the idea that David Leonard is invested in the implementation of soda taxes. So let's take away these other sentences for a moment, and let's look at my original paragraph and see how different I have managed to make my new texts. In both cases, I have the phrase, the implementation of soda taxes in America or the United States. Those are pretty similar. There aren't very many ways to say that, but I have said it a little bit differently. You'll notice that after that, my language starts to change a lot. Up in my new version, I say, arguing that many cities and countries have successfully implemented sugar and soda taxes in the past. Down here, I say, referring to their current implementation in many foreign countries and American cities. I have more quotations from Leonard. I do like this quotation that they've been hugely successful. I might pull that into my revised paragraph if I'm combining them to use the best of both. And I have a little bit more context here. He argues by comparison that soda taxes could be similarly successful. I have a longer quotation from Mike Bloomberg here. If I liked that full length quotation, I could pull that back into my revision paragraph. And this bit has a little bit more detail. If those details are important to me, then I can keep them. If I think I've said it more concisely and more relevantly in my new paragraph, I might leave it just as is. So the step I want to take now, and I'm not going to show you this step, is to pick and choose the sentences and the phrases that work the best for me. Which ones do I like the best? How have I articulated myself? In general, because this is a revision exercise and part of your grade is for a change in your language, I would start with your new one and just add back in the bits that you think are truly important. But look at how essential they are. Which details matter most? If it's just a pretty phrase and you're proud of the pretty phrase, save that pretty phrase. I'm going to keep this paragraph forever. If I have a nice transition, transitions are something I might want to add in because I didn't have very many of those in my revised paragraph. But if I have a nice transition, I can save it in a document of things I've said that I love, or I can use it in another paper, or if it's essential to making all my ideas connect beautifully, I can add it back into this particular paragraph. So I hope this was a helpful look at one way of revising per paragraph, and I hope that you all will consider doing this with the paragraph that you love the most. Not one that you think is weak, but one that you think has all the ideas already said beautifully that you want to change up and make slightly different so that you can see different ways of expressing yourself elegantly. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and revise away.